What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerdz Enigma Podcast, powered by SportsNerds.com. Today, I have a very special guest, former WWE superstar, three-time World Tag Team Champion, five-time Tag Team Champ across a couple different companies. The Red-Headed Fabio, the one-man band, Heath Slater. What's going on, man?
You had to put that redheaded Fabio in there, didn't you?
I saw, so to be honest with you, I went from 2001 when WCW was bought out to
Yeah.
2021 and didn't watch a drop of wrestling. So I missed your whole run. But before that, I watched it all those years, the WWF and stuff. And I've been watching AEW. So I'm like I said, I missed your whole run, but I've done my homework, so I'm ready to go. But I seen the redheaded Fabio thing, and that got me thinking for some reason, speaking of that, do wrestlers, a lot of male wrestlers have the long hair, so it's easier to call spots, or is that just, that's just a thought that I had. I don't know if it's true or not. I haven't been in the wrestling world, so it's just kind of a conspiracy that I've had.
I mean, honestly, buddy, some people might like want it like that way. People might grow their hair out just to hide, the communication. I don't know. The reason I did it is because they told me to, because I had like short hair. I didn't really have nothing going for me with the look. I just was talented and had charisma, man. And John Laurinaitis was like, "Man, grow your hair out. I don't have any long red-headed wrestlers." So, man, I just started growing my hair out, didn't touch it, just let it grow. And it was probably about 7 months later, he came back down in the developmental system and saw me grow my hair out. And he was like, "Oh, you listen, this was before I was even signed. This was for him, saw that I was down there just being a jobber for all the talent that was there, saw that I was still there the following time that he came down and was like, "Oh man, the kid's pretty good, let me, ask the trainers how he is." Because I would just go up there to their TV tapings,
Mm.
and just put over their guys. And then John Laurinaitis told me if I grew my hair out, he'd give me a tryout. So I grew my hair out, I got a tryout, and then I got signed. And I just kept growing my hair as long as I could. And then it literally got to being like a redhead of Fabio, And I grew it out for that reason. But another reason why I liked long hair is because, like, when you get hit and you register it, it like
Right.
swings more, Like if you're selling and you're shaking your hair, it's like more animated and everything. One thing I hated about it is whenever I would grab someone to hold, because back then I was a heel, and I would be sitting there talking shit and everything, and I would take a deep breath, my hair would go in the back of my throat to where I'm
Right.
like, like while I'm in the ring. But yeah, man. But honestly, some guys do drape the hair over so they can call something and then they sling it back. But that was never my reasons for having long hair.
It's just like I said, it's just a theory that I've had here recently because a lot of male wrestlers do have long hair, and I thought that might play a part. But obviously, somebody like John Cena, it wouldn't help when it comes to calling spots because, like you said, you can hear him in the eighth row.
Damn right you can.
So I'm also from West Virginia. I know you're from Pineville. I don't know if you've ever heard. Have you ever heard of East Bank?
East Bank, West Virginia?
Mm-hmm.
Is that up north?
It's about 20 miles east of Charleston. That's where I grew up. Now I lived in Charleston forever. I'm in South Carolina now, but that's also another reason I wanted to have you on because we're
Oh,
from the state of West Virginia. So
yeah, yeah. Hey, we're at South Carolina now.
Myrtle Beach,
Oh, okay.
where everybody from there, goes on vacation anyways. We just decided one day to stay.
Yeah, right. Nice. Okay.
So originally you had aspirations of being a basketball player, right?
I did. I did. I thought one day I might go to the NBA. And then I went to a D2 school and found out I wasn't that good at all in a Division 2 school. And then I found like thinking like, shoot, imagine if I went to Division 1, I wouldn't even last. So, but yeah, like I thought, basketball, football was one of the two that I always wanted to do. And I went for basketball and it got cut short.
Just tell me before that, obviously you loved wrestling as a child. So just tell me how everything, transpired as far as you loving wrestling and end up getting in. And then take me through, you cutting your teeth in Deep South wrestling.
Brother, it was from just childhood of my grandfather and my mom having me watch it. From there, just on the television. Then the toys came involved. So then you're playing with the toys. And then WCW and NWA would always be coming towards Beckley, so you would always go to Beckley to watch it because Beckley's literally was 35 minutes from my house. And so it was just the whole, you know, the seed getting planted from my mom and dad as a very young age. And then by high school, man, like we had our own trampoline. We had tires and mattresses underneath it just so it wouldn't make you bounce high and everything, and you could just get planted more. And dude, we started our own federations, like backyard federations back then. I still got my backyard heavyweight title up there.
Really?
Just for the hell of it, just to keep it. And it's funny just because like it was one of those things that like you loved it as a kid. You always wanted to do it, but never thought you would actually be doing it, So we would pretend on the trampoline. And then once college didn't work out and I came back home and my mom literally just was like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "You know what? I want to be a wrestler." And she's like, "You got to be shitting me. What are you talking about?"
She's like, "No, in reality, what do you want to do?"
Pretty much. At first, like my mom just was like, "What the hell, you crazy?" So then I remember going to my grandfather's house and just talking with him, and he was like asking me pretty much like, "Dude, what do you really want to do?" And I told him, and he was a huge wrestling fan, so he just was like, "I can support that." And I just was, because I never had a dad growing up. My grandfather was like my father figure. So he literally just was like, yeah, try that. Okay. And I'm just like, "Whoa, what?" And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Where would you go? What would you do?" And I told him, I said, "Atlanta, Georgia." I said, "There's the only wrestling school that I know of." I said, "I'd have to move down there and everything." So next thing you know, him and my mom started talking, and he talked my mom into it. And I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I started independent wrestling and training at WWA 4. And I had a job at Abercrombie and Fitch.
Really?
Yeah.
So
And
when you
then,
still had your long hair?
no, I had
Oh,
short
you didn't
hair.
have it yet?
I didn't have it yet. I was short hair, man. And then, I was wrestling and I was learning quick, man. Like, it was just like when you have something that you really want and it's something you always wanted, but you never had the opportunity to, but then you get that opportunity to do it and you just want to be the best and be there all the time, stay in the ring. Like that's how I was, man. I never missed practice. I never missed training. If there was a show I could be out, I would go. Like I was that guy. But what's crazy to me is that like a lot of these guys, they work a decade, 15 years before they make it to the business. But I literally was training and on the independent scene. I was training for a year. I was on the independent scene for a year. WWE opened up Deep South in Georgia. Then they just needed people, they just needed guys. So they had like 10 people signed, maybe 10. And it was just the tough enough crew guys pretty much. And then next thing you know, man, they started putting on shows. I got my foot in the door because they were looking at one of my buddies that they wanted to sign. And he got me in the door, man, and they liked me. And brother, that's next thing you know, it's where the haircut thing came in, grow your hair. And 6-7 months later, he came back and saw I was growing my hair. Then he gave me a tryout. Once he gave me the tryout, man, it was all said and done.
So talk to me about the feelings and emotions you went through when I think you made the main roster in 2010, right?
Yeah.
So how was your emotions and things when you finally got that phone call?
Well, it was one of those days where you walked into training like a normal day, and then Dr. Tom and Steve Kern pulled all of 8 of us to the side that was in, Nexus, that group right there. But it was just NXT. So they took ECW 2.0 or whatever it was, like the second type of ECW they tried to put on TV. It went off air, and then they needed a slot or something, And then that's when the NXT guys, the run came on. And then from there, man, it was just, they told us that it was going to be, it was going to be like a bracket system. Like, all right, if you win, you get 5 points. If you lose, you get no points. If it's a draw, you both get 3 points. Like a bracket thing. If you get counted out, you get none. Like, and whoever gets the most points or whatever through the thing wins. Next thing you know, we get there and it's like a game show, man. Like you're cutting promos in the ring. You got to do an obstacle course. You got to do a carriage, carry thing. It's like it's not what we did. What the hell's happening here?
Right.
So we were guinea pigs on live television doing this stuff to where each week when we walked out there, we had no clue. Everything was ad lib for us. They were telling us what to do, and what you saw us do was what we thought we had to do. And that's what NXT was. And honestly, it sucked for all of us. Like, we didn't know what the hell was happening. Yes, it was awesome. We were on TV, but it wasn't the way we expected to be presented on TV, you know? So that's how, like, all of that started, man.
So you're also the first wrestler ever to have the tag team championships as SmackDown and Raw, right?
I don't know.
I think I read that somewhere a while back. I think you're the first ever to hold SmackDown and Raw tag team championships.
Shit, I don't know. That'd be cool, though.
I think
If
so.
I'm not, I don't know, but I've done it. I know that much.
So I want to talk to you about, obviously we all know about the Legends run and things like that. And I know it was your idea, right? So how did you pitch that? Because I know when you came in and you seen that you were wrestling Vader, you thought it was a joke, you didn't take it seriously. But tell me how you pitched that idea to them as far as going with that storyline.
Bro, right there, as soon as I walked into TR and I saw me versus Vader, I just was like, holy hell, what? So I was like, no way. So the first, like I said, you heard, I literally thought they had Swoggle going to dress up as Vader. And
That's
just
what you
down.
thought?
Yeah, I swear to God, that's what I thought.
Right.
And then Mark Carrano looked at me and was like, nah, pal, man. He was like, it's really Vader. And leading up to Raw 1000, we're bringing in Legends each run. And I was like, damn. I said, okay. So I was like, am I facing them? Am I going to go against all of them? He's like, no, man, we're just switching it out probably. And I was like, well, shit, I don't want that. So I looked on the sheet and I saw who my agent was. So my agent was Mike Rotundo. So I run over to Mike and I'm like, hey, Mike, man, did you see what's on the card? He was like, yeah, I did. Like that. And I just was like, so what's leading up? What did you hear? What are they saying in the meetings? And he told me the same thing, kind of what Mark said. And then I just was like, well, do you think I can be the guy? He was like, man, you got to go to Vince. So Vince would always, his office, he would have like cables like running through his office door. So his door would always be like cracked,
Right.
So I just walked up and I hit it 3 times. Boom, boom, boom. And I listened and he's like, yeah. And I like walk in. I was like, hey, man, you got 2.5, 3 minutes? He was like, sure. And I sat down. I said, listen, I see that I'm working Vader. I hear you're wanting this whole Raw 1000 coming up. Like, you're having a legend each week. I said, let me be the guy that all the legends have to go through. And he just was like, turned his head sideways, like, what do you mean? I was like, let me be like the opposite of Randy Orton. Like, he's the legend killer. I'll be the legend builder.
So he didn't have somebody in mind to continue that. It was just going to be a one-night thing, but it was your idea to have a few of them leading up to that?
Oh, well, no, I wanted all of them. I didn't want a few. Right. I told him, I was like, let me be the guy that says, screw the old guys. It's new talent now. No one, y'all don't need to be here. Your time's up. It's my time now. Like, get the hell away, you old farts. And then they come down and hit the greatest hits than what my ass, And he just was like, you would want to do that? And I said,
absolutely.
Yes, absolutely I would. And he was like, what in the world? Okay, yeah, if you want it, we'll put you in there. I'll give you a 1-minute promo each week and you have 5 minutes with them. I said, beautiful, thank you. And that's how it happened, man. Like, I just walked in there and pitched him what I thought. And he literally, I guess in his mind, he's like, why does people want to lose? I'm just like, bro, it's professional wrestling. Like, come on now. Like, you see what we're doing? You can't say it's not weird, man. Like, we're spandex and baby oil and we're fighting with the friends. Yeah. I said, but the shit hurts. Like, it hurts, man. Don't think it don't, But it's like, yes, I would be willing to do this, Like, I'm wrestling every guy that I grew up admiring and at the guardrail watching, No one else can say they worked those legends. No one. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So to me, it was like a little chip of honor, like, hell yeah.
So did they have a lineup of who they knew they or it was just a week-to-week thing? You didn't know from week to week who it was going to be?
I didn't know from week to week.
So how did the Doink win come about? And everything else was pretty much a squash.
Well, what I think it is that they had Brawler, the Brooklyn Brawler, playing Doink. And they literally just was like, yeah, we'll let you beat him. But then DDP's going to come down and give you a diamond cutter.
Right.
You know? So, like, I mean, honestly, there was no rhyme or reason behind it. Like, they just wanted to give me one, I guess.
So talk to me about Brock Lesnar. Like my wife, she thinks I'm the toughest person in the world, and I'm always like, if there's one dude in this world that I wouldn't mess with, that's one of them. So how intimidating was him? You know, whether it be in the ring or out of the ring, or was he just an overall good dude?
Dude, at first, like, he's that guy that you don't really talk to. Like, he'll just walk by you and look straight. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
he is that type
You
of
have
dude.
to earn it.
Yes,
Yeah.
101. I tell everybody that and that's with some of the dudes up there, man. Like, you have to earn their respect before they start respecting you. I mean, that's how Taker was. That's
Mm.
how Big Show was. You know what I mean? Like, they've been doing it forever. You know, now these young kids are coming up. You know, and then it's like, oh, here we go again. I wonder how this is going to work out. Some last, some didn't. Thank God I was one that was like, man, I respect y'all, man. Like, I like this. You know, I want to do it for as long as I can. You know, we partied together. You know, all that stuff. Like, it was fun times throughout the years. But the first 2-3 years, you had to earn your shit, bro. Like, I've learned over the years that there's a brother choke slam, and then there's one that try to make you shit on yourself.
Right.
You know, so that's the truth. But with Brock, though, Brock is the way of when I worked him in 3 on B, Social Outcast, I got kids and stuff like that throughout different gimmicks that I had. Dude, the first couple times was just like, hey, Brock, how you doing, man? You know, I heard that we're doing this, you know. But then, like, after he works with you a couple times and he knows that you're not going to hurt him and he trusts you, bro, he'll
Mm.
come up and just pick you up from behind and stuff. And you're just like, what the fuck? You know,
Right.
and like, and you don't even jump, you know, he just picks you right on up
Mm.
and you don't have no choice, man. You know, so it's like, yes, he is a freak of nature. Yes, he's strong as can be, probably stronger than you would ever imagine. But like he is that guy. Like once you earn his respect, man, he's cool with you.
So I know the I got kids thing. I know that you forgot your lines on that and just tried to kind of ad lib and come up with something. But tell me, like at the very beginning of that promo, was the hey the way you delivered the hey was that planned or was that just you kind of going off script to do something funny?
They just wanted me to get their attention, and I was like, "What do you mean? You just want me to interrupt them?" And Road Dogg said, "Man, just scream and get
Yes.
their attention." I said, "All right," and that was the scream that came out.
So after that, because like I go by, I laugh every time I watch that, and I think I've even showed my wife the beginning of that, the way you screamed "Hey!" That's one of the funniest "Heys" I've ever heard in my life. But talk to me about the twins. I guess it was John and Justin, right? The twins that were born 4 days apart. Are they the only twins that you know that's born 4 days apart? And tell me how that came about.
What are we talking about?
When you had the family in the ring, and you said these are my twins,
Oh,
and you said they're twins. They're born 4 days apart.
man, I don't. There's so much shit I've done up there. I don't even know. I forgot I even said that shit. But dude, that whole segment right there was supposed to be 4 minutes long, and it was taped right before SmackDown went live. And Vince said, if I can get it in that first 5 minutes or like 4 minute window, he'll air it on SmackDown. But dude, that I had 7 kids in there, a wife, Rhino, me, and like
Yes.
I'm trying to introduce everything, tell them a plan, this and that. I said, bro, we went like 6, you know what I mean? To where it couldn't go live, so they kept it and they put it on um, what is it called? Like the .com crap, you know, the
Right.
internet and all that. So I just was like, I had to go down there, and it was another like booklet. Like they wanted me to talk about, you know, the twins that were 4 days apart. They want me to talk about my one girl that had no tongue. They want me to
Right.
talk about the other girl that was mean and all this stuff. I'm just like, bro, like, you want me to get all of this in 4 minutes? I said, this is like more or less 7 minute segment, you know? He was like, well, if you can get it in there in 4.5, we'll put it on live, and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I would be like, I would rather not rush it and it to be okay than to be able to do it and it to be good, you know? So I just chose I'd rather just be able to do it and let it be good than rush it and let it come out the way it would.
Right. So you've defeated, like Chris Jericho and like I said, Doink and all those names, and you've wrestled Bret Hart and a lot of big name guys.
Oh
So,
yeah.
but tell me who's somebody that you had, because I've interviewed some older wrestlers and they had their go-to that they had a bunch of chemistry with. So who was somebody that you had a lot of chemistry with that, you could work together 100 times?
Um, the Uso twins, Brian Myers, T.J. Wilson, Randy Orton. That I ain't gonna lie, Cena, just because he's really easy, like really really easy, and his comeback simple, and he doesn't change much. He's like a Hulk Hogan. They got 5 types of matches they can do,
Mhm.
Um, but no, Randy Orton, Dolph Ziggler. Shit, Dolph Ziggler is one of the ones to where like he is so good, so easy, so much fun. Santina Morella, he is so much fun to work. R-Truth, my God, I had so much fun working with him. I mean, like, it's one of those things where, like, you know how in the law of the land, everyone's like, in wrestling, I want to be a bear, I want to be a lion, I'm the
Mhm.
lion. It's like, in wrestling, I feel like I'm more like a chameleon, and I can, like, adapt. Like I can work guys my size. I can work luchadors because I know how to do it. I can work strong style. I can do comedy. I can work the big guys, the main event guys. I can put guys over to make it look like they beat me to where it's like I feel like I'm more like a chameleon. I can adapt to the situation at hand.
So who's somebody that would hit the hardest or lay in chops the hardest? And during that instance, was there anybody that you ever felt like you needed to give a receipt to that maybe laid them in too much, or was it all just business?
Dude, I ain't gonna lie. One of the strongest hitting guys in my era coming up was probably Sheamus. Sheamus would knock the shit out of you, man. But the good thing about Sheamus, though, like when he does, he'll put it in the safe spots. It ain't like it hit bone on bone and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But he just was a brawler, man. And but no, he would. He those are the shots that you would feel and wake you up to where you would give it even harder. And then sometimes you would give it a little harder than he wanted. He'd be like, all right, like so. I mean, like Stan Hansen. Like Vader,
Mhm.
like all those guys, they chop meat, man. I mean, hell, Drew McIntyre was the same way. I mean, that match at Mania, McIntyre, Gunther, and Sheamus. I think it was at Mania. Might have been a SummerSlam. I don't remember. But holy shit, you talk about a hard hitting match, bro. I'm just glad I could have watched it and I wasn't in it.
Right.
Yeah,
I saw a match with you and Big Show, and one time, I mean, he laid his hand with his hand size, anyways. He laid in one pretty good on you, and I was wondering about him too.
brother, Big Show would lay one or two good on me every time because he was my buddy and he
Right.
knew he could. But like I would chop him back and I would hit him as hard as I could, and then he'd just be like, "Ooh," but he wouldn't sell it. He'd just sit up like, "Yeah, you want another one?" I'm just like,
Right.
"Damn it, he's gonna kill me now."
So, how much, like, when it comes to calling spots and calling matches and things like that,
Yeah.
does it differ from company to company or person to person as far as how much is called in the back versus calling during the match, or how did you
Oh,
go about
brother.
with your matches?
Oh man, it's one of those things where everybody's different. No one's the same at how. I mean, because you gotta look like a good analogy is I like to tell people. I'm like, you can take advice from everyone if you want, but if it's not the right advice, you can take it ain't gonna work for you. Like
Mhm.
listen to everybody. I mean, everyone's a different scoop of ice cream. I might be Napoleon, but you might be Rocky Road. So it's like I will give you my knowledge of what I think you can do, but if you feel like it can help you, then do it.
Mhm.
So that's the way I've always looked at that and always thought of that. But it's like you can take a lot of advice, but sometimes it ain't gonna work for you.
I know you said that. Do you still feel like you've got a couple years left in you? And if so, have you had any kind of discussions with any company or maybe AEW as far as going back and with some of the guys that you've been with before, like
Yeah.
Edge or Christian Cage or Jericho or somebody or Brian Danielson?
Yeah. I literally do like as soon as WWE release happened, I got that fire underneath my ass again. I literally the TNA schedule and my buddies that were going over and all that worked out perfect. They reached out, I reached back, and I said yes. As soon as I got there, man, I got hurt and I was out for 11 damn months.
Mhm.
I was out for a year of my wrestling career done. And this was right when I was supposed to just start kicking ass and taking names, man. Like, felt good out, man, for a whole year. came back. I was a shell of myself. I was the self-esteem, the everything was gone. You know, I went to Dr. Tom's school. He got me in the ring, and he just literally was like, "Come on, man, let's do this." You know, he got me my confidence back a little bit. You know, so then it was up to me to get back out there and start doing it. So I finished out with TNA the following year. But then I told Steph, I just was like, she's my wife, and I told her I just was like, you know, I don't really want to be under contract because I've been under contract for nearly 18 years of my life. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to go out and do it on my own for a little bit. And I did, you know, and it's been fun. But then I realized, damn it, you're 41. You literally got probably a good 5 years to like, I meant when I say another 5 years, and I mean, that's like being able to get in the ring and deliver. You know what I
Right.
mean? So 45, 46, I know I'm pretty sure I could still keep going the way that I'm going now. But past those years, man, it's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know, brother. Like, I've seen my friends out there that's 50 plus doing it. They don't move like they used to. Okay. We can all be honest. But in that range of late 30s to late 40s, you're still in your prime as a man. You know what I mean? But it's just, I feel like I don't want to go to a company where I'm just going to be that, you know, knock around boy again. You know, I don't want to go to a company like if there's a good story, you know, and everything like that, and I can sink my teeth into it, I would love to go back to one of them, you know, like WWE would be ideal, you know, just because that's where I left off and all my
Right.
history is, you know, but I wouldn't stub my nose at AEW or anything like that, you know, but it's just, at the time right now, I'm at the point to where like if it's a good story and I can sink my teeth into it and we can get a good year or so out of it, like I would love to, you know. But I like I say, I got a handful of good years left. I just don't want to spend it all on the independents.
So I know you mentioned before that you didn't have a career worth, of singles titles and things like that, but you said something that resonated with me. You said you had a lot of moments. So
Uh,
can you pinpoint anything during your career that you would say that was one of your best moments, something that you really enjoyed?
I mean, the moments that I remember that I really enjoyed. One is those Legends run, just because that's a personal moment that I loved.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when me and Ryan, when me and Gabriel first won the tag titles, the first time I ever said, "Damn, I'm a champion up here." You know, that was a good moment. When me and Terry or Rhino, when we won the first ever SmackDown Live tag titles, that was a great moment. And the reason I really love that one is the story behind it. The story leading up to it with me having no job, I got kids, I need a contract, like the underdog's going to fight and he's going to do it, you know, and it came out great. The story was wonderful, you know. It's like those three always stand out to me, you know. But then it was just like I've got like little moments that I have in my heart to where I love, but they're not like all on screen. They're more behind scenes, you know,
Mm-hmm.
than all that. But no, like for wrestling, you know, like the whole I Got Kids run had me leading with Vince to go and wrestle the Miz for the IC title. Then Vince had this bright idea of wanting to do SmackDown Live, Raw Live, you know, and not tape it on Tuesdays anymore, you know. So that's why they moved it to Friday to be live. And then Vince said, you know what, not the IC title. You're going to be the first ever SmackDown Live. I actually fought it and said I didn't want to do it because I already held the tag titles already. I need
Right.
to elevate up. And he didn't see it. He wanted me to be with Rhino and become the first ever SmackDown Live.
I just
But
got one more question for you, and I'll get you out of here. But I just
oh,
wanted to let you know that my family and I, we met you in Charleston. I think it was two summers ago. You were at the regatta doing the independent scene there, and you wrestled Cole Carter, and you took a picture. You and Cole took a picture with my kids at the end of that. So I really appreciate you being kind to them and welcoming to them.
oh, no problem, bud.
But one and another thing, what I ask everybody at the end of all my interviews is, what is something that you want people to know about you that they may not, outside of your profession?
That I'm not a big wuss that WWE presented me, that I can really kick somebody's ass.
I'm sure, yeah.
No, man. Like all honesty, shoot, what's something that no one? I'm kind of like an open book, man. Um, I cry a lot now.
Really,
I
that's all
do,
right. That's
and,
all right.
and you know what's crazy about that? I never was a crier, ever, 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 never,
Mhm.
never, ever. Like growing up, I didn't cry. teenage years, didn't really cry. I just punched holes in walls when I got mad, you know, like never cried. But dude, I feel like, you know, as a man, and hell, this being, you know, men's mental health month and all that stuff, you know, it's like, I really believe like us holding stuff in as long as we have, it really takes a toll on you on the inside, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really beats you up. And me crying, dude, I can just watch Instagram videos and just a video of a dad and a daughter or something, dude. I will bawl like I'm a little baby, man. Like I'm
It's
talking
amazing how
about
things change when you see something like that and you have kids of your own. But before that, you might not have thought twice about it. But when you have
it,
kids of your
man.
own, it changes.
Yeah. So I'm encouraging all the men out there, all you tough guys, cry a little bit, man. I ain't gonna lie, bro. It makes you feel a little better. But
Well,
yeah, there you go.
that's a good one. I appreciate you coming on, Dad. I'd like to have you back on at some time, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure, bud.
Well,
Let's
thank
see.
you so much, and take it easy.
Awesome, bud. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you.